So hello and welcome to another track walkthrough. This time it's for An Absolute Living Hell Part 2, which was requested on the Satan Patreon, so I thought I'd better keep my guys happy and walk you through this one. It was on the album Bloodsport, which was out last year. And yeah, it's kind of like a little sort of a companion piece to An Absolute Living Hell Part 1 for reasons that'll become clear when I to walk you through it. Basically, I sort of made the same track twice, and I didn't really feel like I could get away with saying that it was two different songs. So I thought I might as well label them Part 1 and Part 2. But anyway, that's all the good stuff coming up anyway. But yeah, so here we go. This is the walkthrough for An Absolute Living Hell Part 2. Yes, so here we go then. This is An Absolute Living Hell Part 2. Like a lot of other stuff on Bloodsport, there's not a lot in it. Although, to be fair, there's a fair bit here. For me, anyway, there's quite a fair bit. It's basically, because it's sort of split into two halves. Well, I say two halves. It's basically, there's a big, long, elongated outro from about here, which is a little bit different from all the other stuff around here. So it kind of, yeah, it's a little bit, mad. So I had to like put in quite a few more tracks. But anyway, for a kickoff, basically, it's a very weird time signature, 77.50, and that's because it was all down to the fact that I bought a Volca Beats, the little drum unit. And I use it live, and I've used it for like few little bits and bobs in the studio, but I don't tend to use it that much. For this though, it was only because I bought a brand new distortion pedal from a company I found online called Gojira Effects. They're based in Scotland, and he makes these really cool like these little distortion pedals. So I picked one up, and I was just experimenting with it. I was sort of like playing around with it, and I thought like, wouldn't it be fun? Wouldn't it be really good fun to shove the drum machine through it? So I did, and then I didn't realize that you can also pitch the kick drum, and I totally forgot to do that on the two times I recorded stuff into it. One of which was Absolutely Hell Part 1, and the other one was this. So like, I basically had two sort of different drum patterns. We'll get to it in a minute. I think there's the drum machine. So I'd made that, and there's another. So I've made these two basically. They're like kind of like different like little patterns, and I was experimenting around, and then I thought I basically did the same track twice. So they're both at similar tempos, and they're both like in sort of similar patterns, and the pitch is both the same for the kick drum. So like, obviously, what do I do when the pitch is the same for the kick drum? I put the same I put the same bass line, obviously, because I'm an idiot. So it's there's the bass, and there's the 303 sort of line, the acid line. So they basically just sort of do that, and there's a bit of a menace behind it. I was really into this like 303 stuff because at the time, because you only have to like press one note basically, and you get that. And it sounds super good when you put a bit of like delay and reverb on, which obviously there's a lot of it there. So yeah, they sound amazing. So I did that for both tracks, and then realized a bit further on down the line that, oh shit, both of these songs sound exactly the same. What do I do? So like, I sort of carved them both up into like different sort of tracks, and we'll get to that anyway. But for this one anyway, it's a little bit different the way it starts to the other one, because I kind of go straight in there with some like rhythm stuff. This being the opener. Which sounds absolutely hideous. I mean, just listen to that, Jesus Christ. Without the saturator is basically just like making it. It sounds pretty gnarly anyway, but with the saturator on, Jesus, sounds like pretty nuts. without anything else on. That's how it's supposed to sound. We'll leave them all on for now. Basically, yeah, that's from... quite a lot of this is from a sample pack I got for a synth called a VCS3, which is... Where is it? Let me just find it for you. There it is. So, brilliant. It's a lot of stuff. VCS3, yeah, uncooperative sequence, it's called. And it's basically just like sort of... there's some like rhythm stuff in there, some beat stuff, there's some, you know, like weird bleepies. Very odd stuff. And I wanted to get it because I love those kind of like weird old school synths that just don't make any sense, that sound like really odd and really weird. And I thought, like, wouldn't it be good to, you know, incorporate some of that into the, you know, the Saint sound? So yeah, so there's a lot of it on here. That is, I sort of pitched it down a little bit and obviously mangled it with all these like saturators and stuff, and reverbs and a bit of EQ and stuff like that to make it sound a bit, you know, a bit different. But yeah, it opens on that to give it a real like horrible sort of feeling. And then as we kind of get into the track a little bit, there's that 303 line. And that big chunky bass, that again is from the Yamaha reface that is in all my walkthroughs. I mention it all the time. But it's really good for bass, so I put a little bit of chorus, I think, on there. Oh no, look at that. Would you look at that? There's absolutely nothing on it, so I must have added the chorus on the reface. It's not even an EQ there, that's how that's how good it sounded straight off the bat, but yeah. So the drum machine stuff is the Volca Beats drum machine stuff is doing that. You can hear how like horrible it sounds as well with the distortion pedal. This is like a real like horrible like nasty like distortion going. So I added just a kick drum and then some various like I think that's a snare. Yeah, that's a little snare just from like sample packs. Just to sort of beef up the sound a little bit. Speaking of sort of beefing stuff up, we now get this. I've got like a little lush pad, it's called. Just a little synth sort of pinging away in the back. Again, it's got saturator on to give it a bit of a bit of distortion. I've actually rammed the drive right the way. Look at that. But it sounds really nice. It gives it that like horrible sort of like crystally feeling. It's really high. It's really top endy. Like kind of cuts through it. It's really nice. Well, not nice, but it sort of fits the record, I suppose. So that's all picking away. You've got the drums. Oh, and some hats as well. Again, these are from the VCS3. VCS3, Jesus, sample pack. And I sort of pitched them up a little bit, and I've added a bit of reverb and delay, or just a bit of delay on this. But I've boosted the top end. I always tend to do that with hi-hats, even if they don't need it. I'll take off like pretty much all the bass and just have top end, because that's sort of their job. And you don't want any sort of stray frequencies sort of muddying up the rhythm section, because then, I don't know, your ears get a bit tired, because you're always trying to make out like the hi-hats, and all I'm doing is basically making it a lot easier for you by having them cut through the sort of sludginess elsewhere. It doesn't sound like there, but without them, you can notice a bit of a difference. It sort of feels a bit more sludgy. Take all that out, and your ears sort of like pick up instantly, because you can feel, you can hear the top end of it all come through. It cuts through everything else, all the other kind of stuff that's going a bit mad. It really helps. So yeah, anyway, we sort of like That's sort of like the intro, and then yeah, some rock guitar. I mentioned this in the walkthrough to An Absolute Living Hell 1, but I very rarely get to play anything on guitar on Satan tracks that isn't a sort of like post-rock, tremolo pick lead or like an atmospheric bed or something like that. It usually tends to be something like that. Whereas with this, because the whole thing sounded so like gritty and raw and a bit like disgusting because it's all overdriven and distorted, it was nice to sort of, just play some chords or do something. So the whole thing is basically just me playing like sort of two sort of notes, I guess. It's like a chord and then like a couple of notes right at the top of the guitar, but it was nice to do that and just like give it a bit of like, whoa, yeah, go on. Bit of oomph. Again, like loads of reverb and delays. I think there's some tremolo on this as well. And well, yeah, as you can hear, there's like a Boss tremolo pedal that I have. I don't tend to use it much anymore, but fit really nicely here. And with that, yeah, so there you go. So now when you're in the sort of like meat of the track, I have sort of, let's have a look. The rhythm track is sort of changed a little bit. I do this a lot as well, sort of like come up with an idea and then that will form the meat of the track and then you sort of like retrofit it to make an intro. So on this intro, it's like sort of a stripped back version of the stuff that is here, the sort of like meat of it. I sort of strip it back and then have it as an intro. And then by the time you get to the meat of the track, it's like, whoa, wallop. It doesn't sound huge or anything, but it's enough of a difference. You see there? It's quite like sparse now. There we go. And then with everything else. And it wouldn't be a Satan track without at least 2 layers of sort of thick ambient stuff. So I've got these 2 in the middle. That's really nice actually, isn't it? That's sort of like that's detuned a lot. That's just from a sample pack of modular ambient stuff. And then over that, there's another one. Again, detuned, I think from the same one. Yeah, modular ambient, yeah, it's from the same one, same sample pack. But they sound quite nice together, don't they? They sound really cool. And this second one here, track 5, is providing a bit of melody as well because it's just 2 chords playing. And then over the other one, the other ambience. There you go. So yeah, it just kind of does that. And then I was in a bit of a sticky situation, not a sticky situation, I suppose, but I kind of thought like, well, I've sort of done the sort of intro, big meat of the track, outro thing on An Absolute Living Hell Part 1. So like, how could I make this a little bit different? And it was only because like I was faffing around with the bass and I realized that the bass lines and some of this stuff were literally just 1 note or like 2 notes. And wouldn't it be good or cool or fun to sort of throw in a few more? And it didn't really fit with the sort of beats with all this stuff. It didn't really fit to have a bass line that was shooting all over the place or, doing more than a couple of notes because like it loses that sort of menace, that sort of like that grit, that horribleness. So I thought like, okay, I'll pull out another Satan trick then. And the other Satan trick is always to, if you get stuck, sort of split the track in half and sort of like put the 2 ideas together but separate them. So then you've got like the first bit of the track and then the last bit of the track. And I've done this like for ages, so I sort of employed it here a little bit, not as much or as with as much intensity as other tracks that I've done it on, but I still the sort of idea is still there. So like the first bit of the track sort of fades out here. I just keep knocking stuff off. So all these like guitar and these horrible tracks and stuff will tend to go up. There we go, it's gone. And then I bring in a new bass line. So it's nothing, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's just a few more notes. It sort of gives it an extra sort of like weird feel to it because I've added these extra notes in. It doesn't feel as like menacing. It almost feels like sort of like calm, a bit gentler. It's like the calm after the storm. So I sort of ran with that and knocked off the sort of the drum machine stuff and the sort of gnarlier stuff, and I just added loads of sort of like ambient stuff at the end because I thought like that's a nice way to sort of separate the two tracks as well from each other. They're not just like 5 minutes of gnarly shit both times. This one's got like something else about it. So the ambience sort of come back in, and then I add these little pianos from the same sample pack, but they're just sort of like I pitched them up and sort of like added a few effects, but they're essentially just like little sort of lo-fi piano, like piano that's not been recorded very well but sounds great in ambient stuff. And I sort of moved through. In fact, they sound really nice, really like fragile, because they've obviously been recorded on like warped tape and stuff. And then I just sort of moved through the registers, so there's sort of a lower one, a middle one, and a high one. And I love all these like little imperfections, like this little pop here. It's really nice. So I kept it all in, and just thought that's a really nice way to end this track. There's some more ambience there as well. It's basically all from this same sample pack, but I've detuned this one quite a bit and added a bit of reverb. Oh, the delay didn't manage to go on it in. And the new bass line sort of is pinging around in the background there. And I just thought it'd be a really nice sort of way to end the sort of an Absolute Living Hell duo of tracks anyway, and this particular track too. So it's like, listen to that, it's really nice. So yeah, I just kind of like fade stuff out and end on that heartbreaking little piano line. But yeah, so it fits really well, fits really nicely, I think, and like sort of separates the two tracks really well. But yeah, so that was an Absolute Living Hell Part 2.